The Guild is Maximum Lawyers' community of legal entrepreneurs who are taking their businesses and lives to the next level. As a Guild member, you'll build relationships, be held accountable, and learn strategies specifically designed to get you unstuck and accelerate your plan for growth. Members are also granted exclusive access to masterminds hosted around the country. Our next event is coming up, and we're heading to Scottsdale, Arizona. There's something truly magical about the power of these in-person connections where real-time breakthroughs happen. Picture this. You're surrounded by like-minded law firm owners tackling your business and mindset challenges together. The energy is electric, the insights are transformative, and the results are game-changing. Investing in yourself is the best decision you'll ever make. The knowledge, strategies, and breakthroughs you'll gain are priceless assets that will supercharge your practice and propel you forward. Join the Guild and secure your ticket to Scottsdale at the best possible price by visiting maxlawevents.com.
Run your law firm the right way. This is the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. Your hosts, Jim Hacking and Tyson Mutrux. Let's partner up and maximize your firm. Welcome to the show.
Welcome back to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. I'm Jim Hacking.
And I'm Tyson Mutrux. What up, Jimmy?
Tyson, my friend, I'm excited about our guest today. It's one of our favorite Guild members. His name is John Fritz. He's an estate planning attorney from St. Louis, MO. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
John, I'm excited to have you too. You're a local guy. You seem to be doing really, really well. Tell us, though, about your journey and how you got to where you are now and starting your firm.
Yeah, so came out of law school in 2011 and, it was kind of a rough patch for lawyers getting jobs at that time. And after about 6 months of, sending off resumes and doing that sort of thing, I landed a job over in Illinois at an insurance defense firm who specialized in toxic tort defense litigation. So, Tyson, you don't even do toxic tort, or, on the plaintiff side. But anyways, so I did that for about 6 years and kind of worked my way up the chain there, got a lot of extremely valuable experience on how to litigate cases on the defense side. So was licensed in New York, still am licensed in New York, Illinois, and Missouri. At some point in that kind of journey, I decided that I didn't want to depose people that were either sick or about to die, for the rest of my life and kind of go that route. And I wanted more of a, I had that vision, when I first decided to be a lawyer of, being that, person in the community who, that was helping people. Right. And I mean, my work was extremely valuable, what I was doing, but, I was working for a Fortune 100 company overseas who just, wanted to pay less money, for cases. So decided that I needed to take a different route. And my wife had said, you've kind of spoke about opening your own firm before. Now's the time. It's either now or never. So I, gave my notice about 2 months later, found an office space, bought a computer, and just kind of opened the door up and started building a law firm, right? So basically, I started out doing estate planning work and plaintiff's personal injury work because I had the defense litigation background. And then, ultimately added on probate work. And, my journey lasted for about up until the first of this year. So almost about 5 years, I did all three practice areas. And at the first of this year, made a big change, partly because of you guys and just all the messaging from the, the Guild about, niching down and how important it is and profitable it can be. And so decided to drop my estate planning practice and my personal injury practice and solely focus on scaling my probate practice.
Well, so I guess I probably need to re-record that intro when I said you're an estate planning lawyer. I just went off your website.
No worries.
Yeah. That's all good. People will figure that out. Talk to us about that part of things. Like, I know a lot of people, especially when they go from the defense side to representing individuals, sometimes there's a real fear to do something different and maybe even a little bit of imposter syndrome. How did you, I get the part about not wanting to be deposing dying people, but how do you get to then say, I did it with immigration, but how do you just sort of declare I'm this new kind of lawyer?
I think the declaration was easy. I'm kind of my mindset is sometimes to my detriment is that I can learn to do anything and I can actually, and I can learn it and I will become successful at it with time, through trial and error. So I basically, was starting out thinking, well, I know it's going to take some time. So I kind of established expectations. Okay. My first year is I know what it's going to look like. I'm not going to step out and have all this business or be able to handle all this business in my first year. I would say the fear was not really there for me. I wasn't afraid of going on that path because I had some leeway. My situation would have been a little bit different had my family, me being the sole income in my family, So there was a lot of factors that made it easier for me to kind of go down that path and kind of learn it and do the trial and error. The fear wasn't necessarily there, but the imposter syndrome for sure was there. And when it comes to, starting from scratch, with estate planning is what I kind of started with, and learning estate planning from scratch, you have to put on the hat of I'm an estate planning attorney and I know how to do everything. And for me, I don't like doing that. I mean, I don't like, I'm the type of person who, I like to come across exactly how I am. And so that was kind of tough for me to put on kind of that hat. But what I did was to kind of cope with it was, I grabbed a couple of mentors. I reached out to other lawyers, had a couple of mentors who were in the estate planning space, experts at what they were doing, and reached out to them and said, hey, let's partner on cases so that I can learn from you. I'll send you all of my cases that are outside of my tiny little box that I know how to do right now. And then I can, it's kind of a mutually beneficial relationship. So I feel like I dealt with the imposter syndrome by bringing on that mentor and using him to help me learn, but also as that support to, if I needed help, I could turn to him. So.
What really strikes me about you is it's interesting. You've been doing this for 12 years, but you've really got a knack for systems and processes and automations, and you've really got it down. I mean, you even have products that you've created that automate things. It's quite impressive. Where does that come from? I mean, that's kind of crazy to me, how you've picked that up so easily. Where does that come from? And then when it comes to those aspects of running your firm, what advice do you have to other lawyers that are just starting out on this journey?
Yeah. So, I mean, the systems and processes, I don't know. It's just, I feel like that I'm just really interested in. I'm really passionate about, early on in my legal career, when I was a defense lawyer, I never really had the chance to explore kind of that creative side, right? It was always simply going to work and, everything was boilerplate. And once I kind of started on my own, well, it's like, okay, well, we have to start creating now, right? We have to create some sort of process. And, it's been an evolution. It wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to build this amazing thing outside the box. It took me years to build. And, I would say the just being passionate about it all comes down to efficiency for me. So I just have that ingrained in my blood of where I need to be hyper efficient. And if something isn't efficient, I can tell a detail in the process where this is what's slowing us down. How do we change it? How do we become more efficient? And more of a, problem solving, but, like I said, it's a lot of trial and error. I don't know how many errors I've made when it comes to processes or systems where, you plug something in new and it does not work. And you're like, okay, well, let's try again. But I think having the mentality of I'm never going to stop trying until I figure out, not the perfect equilibrium, but pretty close to it. And so constantly tweaking and just trying new things, has been a strong suit of mine and has brought success when it comes to processes and systems.
All right. So you said something and it was alarming for me. A light bulb went off my own internal stuff because we're going through processes now and streamlining things. And you said something that when you were working at your other firm, that it was boring, it was boilerplate. So that was a little alarming for me because I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we doing in our firms that are making things boring for our people? So what would your advice, I guess, be to people that have gotten bored in their jobs? Like how do we as law firm owners make it so that the jobs are not just boilerplate and boring?
You had mentioned, obviously, building systems and processes, and this kind of, flows along with your question. But when it comes to the mundaneness of the law firm, what are people doing that they want to pull their hair out every single day because it's the same thing over and over, the repetitiveness. And it really did not, creating some of these automation systems within my firm did not stem out of, okay, how do I make my employees' jobs less mundane and less boilerplate, but more from a functionality standpoint of how do I reduce the amount of time that the attorney is actually spending on a file, right? And to get my time back, because that's what it all started from was I don't have enough time in the day to do all these things. So my advice would be for other law firm owners that have, it's kind of a twofold where if it's, not just the mundaneness of that, but also efficiency is reduce the boilerplateness of your law practice through automation or some sort of system or process. I mean, I know that, my paralegal at my firm, when she started, I was in the early stages of building the automation for our probate documents. And, it took about 2 years to build completely, and I'm still tweaking it. But, I could see it very easily where, she would be sitting down and just filling out documents, the same document over and over, typing in the same information, right? And as that being one of those kind of boring, mundane, topics or just tasks. And so now through our automation, we've removed that from her job task of simply, it's just entering data in. Here are all the documents for the entire case. Then we can go on to other things, right? As opposed to, basically being a data entry specialist for half the time.
The Guild is Maximum Lawyers' community of legal entrepreneurs who are taking their businesses and lives to the next level. As a Guild member, you're granted exclusive access to quarterly in-person events around the country. The next mastermind is coming up on July 20th and 21st in Denver, Colorado, featuring hot seat sessions and personal coaching with renowned performance coach Jason Selk. This event will give you the opportunity to work directly with Jason, who has helped countless high-performing individuals and teams reach their full potential. During the hot seat sessions, you'll gain valuable insights and learn strategies to help you overcome the challenges you're facing in your practice. For a limited time, you can get your ticket at the lowest early bird price. Head to maxlawevents.com to join now and reserve your spot at the upcoming Guild Mastermind.
You're listening to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. Our guest today, attorney John Fritz, he's made some shifts in his growing law firm. John, talk to us a little bit about what was the final straw that made you decide to narrow down to just probate, and how did your team take it?
I mean, the final straw was basically I was going in so many directions in a given week. I mean, watching other lawyers, in the Guild and just listening to, some of the other lawyers in St. Louis and your guys' podcast about, how important it is to niche down. I thought, if there's something there, I should try it, right? I should give it a shot. But it was simply, one of the weeks I had leading up to that decision was, I was sending out discovery in a personal injury case on the plaintiff's side. I had 2 or 3 estate plans and closings I was doing. And then I had 3 different probate cases that I had to prepare documents for and do that. And my mind was so all over the place. It was creating a lot of stress. And I just said, look, this is, I was trying to be good at 3 different things and trying to build 3 different law firms in one. And it just didn't make any sense. And it took me longer than I, would like to admit that it took me to, it took me 5 years to realize that. But once I actually realized that, it was, I've taken away probably at least 50% of my stress that I was carrying before. And it's been, absolutely phenomenal from an ownership standpoint and also a scalability standpoint, because trying to do 3 things at once or scale 3 different practice areas is impossible. It's hard enough to scale one. So,
all right, John, I want to shift gears just a little bit. Before the show, you said that you wanted to increase brand recognition. And I'm curious what that means. Like, what are you talking about when it comes to increasing brand recognition? Are you talking about you want to bring in more cases, or you just want to be well known in the St. Louis area? And where's that coming from?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a combination of both. When it comes to, bringing in more cases is important for growth and growing the law practice. But, probate is one of those areas where it's kind of the redheaded stepchild of the law for whatever reason. When it comes to, a lot of lawyers say, oh, I don't, they tack it on to either estate planning or this or that. And, I absolutely love doing probate work. I love providing the value to the people who are, who had just lost a loved one. It's a really rewarding, role to be able to help clients in that role. But, my goal is to increase my recognition as a firm. I want to be the go-to law firm in Missouri, at least in St. Louis to start, when it comes to probates, right? So that people think, hey, there's a probate case, just like they might think of, personal injury lawyers whenever they get in a car accident. I want to be known as the probate guy in St. Louis. And that's what I'm doing right now to kind of build that brand recognition to not only, add more cases, but, to ultimately to have a bigger impact in the space, which, quite frankly is, I think that we are state of the art when it comes to our systems and processes and client experience, for the probate side.
I think before you joined the Guild, I did a training. I think Tyson was out of town or something. And I know that I had to do it sort of on the fly, but I remember the topic was, what practice area would I adopt if immigration went away? And I picked probate litigation. I think it's something that's very scalable. I think it's something that, like you, I had litigation experience. It's something that I could handle. It's not full-blown litigation, which I was happy to get away from. And most importantly, I think there's lots of attorneys who look for someone to send that one probate litigation matter they hear about a year. I mean, maybe you can come up with a steady stream of people. Maybe estate planning attorneys can do that, but I think it's highly referable. I think it's a great practice area. I think of the three that you had, you picked the right one. I really think that what you're trying to do is very doable, and I just wanted to say that.
Well, I appreciate that. And so our probate umbrella is, my main focus is decedents' estates. We have our litigation piece that I have, a contract lawyer that does as well, but my main focus is decedents' estates. So basically when somebody dies and their assets have to go through probate. And the majority of those cases are uncontested. Obviously we handle and do handle the contested pieces and then the litigation pieces. But when it comes to, the firm itself, our focus is, getting people through that process. And a lot of it is just simply filing documents with the court, forms with the court. And that's why, we kind of built those processes to help assist with that. So
Jim, I think that's a really good point because I can think of two probate lawyers in St. Louis that I refer to on a regular basis, just two. I could name dozens and dozens of criminal defense attorneys and personal injury attorneys and family law attorneys. But when it comes to probate litigation, I think that's right. But I'd say, John, what are the things that you are doing or the things that you need to be doing to make sure that you are known as that probate lawyer in St. Louis?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to, the digital advertising space, I'm pretty well known, at least when it comes to, the Google searches and that sort of thing. But there's definitely a big hole in my brand strategy or marketing strategy, going forward, which is video content. I know I need to do that. I know it can be a huge, driver of not only recognition, but also value when it comes to content for the general public to consume. So that's definitely one thing that was actually my one thing this week, was to make one video of, a probate video to edit, ultimately to put out. So there's a lot of things I can be doing. And I think, if I want to be known as the probate guy in Missouri, I need to put out probably 10 to 100-fold of the content that I'm putting out now.
Yeah, the way I always thought of it is that you need to convince the world that you're obsessed about that topic, that's all that you think about. Even if you think about other things, like being omnipresent, and you want to get to that point where when people think probate litigation, they think of John. When they think of John, the harder part is when they think of John, to make them think probate. For me, everyone thinks immigration, right? That was my goal, and it takes a shitload of content to do it.
Yeah, and I understand that it's a bit, it's been one of those, I've hesitated to, just like a lot of people in the guild, and and a lot of people in the guild have done amazing when it comes to, forcing themselves to put that video content out. And I know both of you guys do it very well. And it's one of those things that I'm now at the point where I actually have, with a couple more staff members, I'm able to kind of free up some time, not be so much, doing the legal work as opposed to spending more time basically in the marketing space.
All right, John. Well, we are at our time, so I'm going to wrap things up. Before I do, I want to remind everyone to make sure you join us in the big Facebook group. There's a lot of great activity going on there. If you want a more high-level conversation with people like John Fritz, go to maxlawguild.com and join us there. There's just a lot of great content being shared there as well. A lot of great knowledge, too. It's an excellent place to be. And while you're listening to the rest of this episode, if you don't mind leaving us a 5-star review, we would greatly appreciate it. It helps spread the love. Jimmy, what's your hack of the week?
We all spend a lot of time thinking about direct-to-consumer marketing. How do we get a particular person to raise their hand, people who are in need of our legal services? We don't spend nearly as much time thinking about the people who know those people. So my hack of the week is to spend some time this week thinking and drilling down and being creative. Whatever practice area you have, who are the people that know the people that I want to represent? Spend some time on that. Devote a little bit more of your resources towards that, and I think you'll hit pay dirt.
I like it. It's great advice, Jimbo. All right, John, as you know, we always ask our guests to give a tip or hack of the week. What you got for us?
Yeah, so my tip or hack of the week is to make a list of all the documents that you are creating from scratch in a given case, whether it's letters to clients, whether it's forms you're filling out. Just make a master list of all the documents in that case, and then see what data is going into each document. Okay, so if it's the client's name, the client's address, and a client's birthday, that's going across all the documents in your case, right? Or most of them. Create some sort of, or at least consider adding some sort of document automation system onto it where you can input that data and it spreads it across all your documents to use. So I personally use something called Gavel. I think you guys actually had the CEO or the founder on here before. There's others out there, but just create a process or create a system where you're not doing data entry for every single document in a case, but that it'll spread it across all the documents. Or if you're using documents across multiple practice areas that are the same, automate those so that you're not having somebody spend that time. Because the small amount of time, it might be, a few minutes, or it might be, 15, 20 minutes on a document. But if you extrapolate that over all the documents that you're producing in a week or a month or a year, it becomes a massive time spend.
Great advice. Good stuff. All right. So my tip of the week is actually a fun one. I think Jim might like this. I can't wait to see him do this, but it's the Wonder Woman pose. It's called the power pose. Okay. It was actually a TikTok. It was Tony Robbins was talking about it, but apparently there's a lot of science behind it. So if you do that for 2 minutes straight, it increases confidence. It improves your body language. Obviously, it reduces stress levels. It puts you in a better mood, and then you get better performance as well. Like there's a bunch of science that backs it up. It's the craziest thing though. Like just doing that Wonder Woman pose for 2 minutes. And I think you only have to do once a week or whatever. But if you do that, there's a lot of health benefits to it. And in men, there's some studies that say that it increases testosterone. It's kind of a crazy thing. But when you get a chance, if you're listening to this episode, just kind of do it for 2 minutes and see if it does anything for you.
So like this?
No, like with your hands on your hips, like that one.
Oh, like that. Oh.
Yeah, like
it's hard to tell. We can't see it, the full pose with the camera like this,
It's the groin thrusting that increases testosterone, apparently.
That's probably what it is, actually. So the Wonder Woman pose, it's a fun one.
Cool.
All right, John, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your time and sharing a lot of great information.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, guys. You guys have been awesome in the guild and outside the guild, so I appreciate everything you guys do.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for listening to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. To stay in contact with your host and to access more content, go to MaximumLawyer.com. Have a great week and catch you next time.